guys, welcome to today's LinkedIn webinar. So now that everybody I hope is here and in the room, just give you a little bit of an introduction, and I will bring this up later on as well, but if you've got any questions, just pop those in the chat box and I will address them at the end. The recorded aspect of this webinar is just going to be this first part with the lesson, so to say, and then the question and answer at the end will not be recorded so that you feel free to ask any questions and share your profile. So a little bit about why I am so focused as a career coach on LinkedIn. A lot of times people are surprised that I do LinkedIn strategy because they see me as a resume writer or a career coach, and they don't understand the connection between the sort of powerful narrative and platform that LinkedIn allows you. And so the way that I see LinkedIn really is not a social media platform per se, but as this opportunity for you to really brand yourself as a professional and to tell your story powerfully. And this is so important because people are looking at your LinkedIn profile. I'm sure you go and look at other people's LinkedIn profiles all the time. And we judge people in just a blink based on what we find or don't find on their profiles. And so it's really important that you wrap your head around LinkedIn and that you have the sort of future forward mindset that you can use LinkedIn to get you where you want to go. So you need to own your story, own your mindset, know your goals, and use LinkedIn as a platform to tell that successfully. So what LinkedIn does for you is that it allows you to tell your story your way. What you're going to learn today is how people read profiles. Then you're going to understand what you need to do to build your own career narrative. I'll also give you a sense of urgency about updating your profile now and a few clues about how to do that, where to start. And then we'll also talk at the end a bit about networking and growing your influence through messaging and or posting content on LinkedIn. So again, if you've got any questions during the webinar, just post those in the chat and I'll answer them in the Q&A section. So I like to start off with a little bit of this mindset. So do not let humility be mistaken for mediocrity. Whether you're writing a resume, writing your bio, whatever you're doing, LinkedIn is the place where you really need to get away from that idea of being humble, and you need to talk about what you do with confidence and joy. And so as a career coach, if you have a problem with that overall, I can help you. That's what I do. But for most people, you can just listen to this webinar today, take notes, ask questions, pay attention to concepts like blink and hope, and really listen for where I talk about values and strengths and things like that, because this is what you need to write that strong professional narrative and really leverage LinkedIn so that it can work for you. So I've broken this down into 7 steps or 7 sections that you can focus on to have success with your LinkedIn profile. The first one is really this idea of creating your personal narrative or your personal brand. And I know that a lot of people hate thinking of themselves as a brand or as something that they need to market. And part of this is because it's hard to talk about ourselves, but the thing is, it's so important to talk about what you do. If you can't tell people what you do, how are they going to know that you can help them solve their problems? And another way to look at this that I find a little bit better than the branding or marketing lingo is if you think about your personal brand as being the weather that you bring when you walk in a room. What is your weather report? What do people feel? What do people get from you when they click onto your LinkedIn profile in a blink? And if that message that you're giving out is not the message that you want, if it's not a powerful message, if it's not going to help move you forward in your career, then you need to take a look at that and figure out what message you want to portray instead. So where people get stuck a lot of times is thinking about what you should have on your profile. So going and comparing yourself to others, thinking about your strengths as weaknesses. So anything that you do on your profile, if you're going for this, I'm not good enough, there's something wrong with me, All of those things, you just got to let go of those thoughts, and you really got to focus on what are your core values? How do you work? What gets you excited? What do you bring to the table? What have you done in the past? What do you want to do in the future? So you really need to focus on your strengths, your values, the impact that you want to make. If you have problems with that, if you're not sure what your strengths are, those sorts of things, that's why people like me, career coaches, exist. So you can always go and work with a career coach and then come and do your LinkedIn profile. But if you take a little time and effort, you can figure this out on your own too. So once you're clear about what you do and what your strengths are, then you need to think about, really, why am I on LinkedIn? What is this that I want to get from LinkedIn? When people come to my profile, what do I want them to take away from this? Or what do I actively want to use LinkedIn to do? And then from there, I'm going to figure out who my audience is, who can help me achieve these goals on LinkedIn. So is your what is your overarching professional goal is the first question. And so that's like right now. And then, where do I want to be in 3 to 5 years? And really look at LinkedIn as this future forward platform. So how is LinkedIn going to help me get from where I am right now to where I want to be in 6 months to where I want to be in 5 years? And then possible audiences. That might be hiring managers or recruiters if you're actively searching for a job. It might be people within your own company. If you want to build your authority or change the way people see you, if you want to move laterally, if you want to move up, whatever you want to do within your own company, how you portray yourself on LinkedIn can influence that as well. It also might be people who can learn from you, people that might be potential clients or ideal customers you've already identified, and it might be people in those networks. So get clear on who your audience is. And then also pay attention to the folks you don't want to worry about. So maybe you want to ask your mom or your BFF or the guy that sits next to you to look at your profile for accuracy, for correctness, for the grammar, those sorts of things. But don't necessarily ask them about the content, your headline. Pay attention to who your audience is. And if these people that are reading your profile and giving you negative critiques are not your ideal audience, don't worry about them. If you want to access 3% of an audience, you don't want to listen to the other 97% if they don't get what your profile is about. So people with opinions who have no idea what you do or not interested in what you do, don't worry so much about what they have to say. Pay attention to the people that care about what you do. One example of this power of authenticity and strengths that I really like to talk about, and it's one of the times that I really realized a couple of years ago how powerful LinkedIn is that I had a woman contact me because she wanted to get a new job and do a stealth job search. And so we did her resume, but also we rewrote her LinkedIn profile. But by stealth, I mean we rewrote it for her current position, but really just sort of emphasizing what she could do, what her capacity was to perform, where she was going as a leader. And her history was that she had come into a job working in a processing warehouse while she was still in university, and she graduated and she worked all the way up to VP of this company now. The company was merging and she was responsible for bringing in the new team and putting together the new CEO suite. And she was pretty sure that based on how people had been treating her historically in her company, that she was going to have to leave, that she was going to be moved out, and that she needed a new job. And so we did this profile, and a couple months later, I hadn't heard from her, and I was a little worried because she was super smart, she was very qualified, it should have been really easy for her to get a job. So I reach out and say, hey, how's it going? And she said, do you know what? I love my job. I am no longer looking for a new job. Rewriting my LinkedIn profile allowed me to bring the team in that I wanted to hire because people would read my profile, and so I attracted the right kind of candidates. The people that I was already working with, they saw me in a new light because I started talking about myself differently because I had clarity because of the strengths and values work that we did. And she said, I've got a completely new job just because I changed how I talked about myself and people see me differently now. And that was just from the act of writing her LinkedIn profile. So this is why it's so important to really get clear on who your audience is, who you are, and what you want to do, and where you're going. So where people get stuck is if somebody is planning a pivot, for example. Maybe you're not sure what to focus on, or you've got a career gap, so you're wondering, how honest should I be? Or maybe you've got a main gig and a side gig and you're not sure how to balance them. So these are the situations that people come to me for an audit or to ask me to write your profile, because sometimes you do need another opinion. But mostly it's just really being clear about what you can do and where you're going, and figuring out how to tell that story with authenticity. How people read profiles will help you maybe to understand better what you can be doing. And so I call this the Blink test. And you may have read the book Blink about a decade or so ago, but it's really based on that. And it's very, very important in the career field, is that first image that you give off has, people have implicit biases. And so they make a decision about you, whether you like it or not. And so on LinkedIn, the first place people see you is your profile picture. They see your name, and they see your headline. And so these are really places that you want to make sure that you're coming across the best that you can come across. After that, people click through to read your profile. They see your name, they see a bigger image of your profile picture, they see your background image. They also have access to your contact information. And so these are all the sort of different places that you need to be paying attention to for that Blink response. So if you just want to touch on the contact information real quick. If people do click to read through and find out your contact information, you need to make sure that you've got a personalized URL on LinkedIn. You want to make sure that your current position is accurate. You want to make sure that you've got contact information and that your profile is visible to people that are second or third degree connections. Because if you don't have these things, what's the point of being on LinkedIn? So on top of that, in a Blink, profiles with a clear profile photo get 80% more clicks. So you need a headshot, you need a smile, you need to be approachable, people need to recognize when you come in a room, and you need to double check and make sure that your profile picture is visible to second and third degree connections. There's no point in having a profile picture on LinkedIn if it's only available to people that are already connected to you. So if that little gray circle shows up when people see you commenting, or that little gray circle shows up when you are shown to a profile, people aren't going to be curious about you. They're going to think that maybe your profile is not a real profile, or that you haven't been on LinkedIn. So be proud of your own image, get a profile picture, put it up, use it. Similarly, profiles with sentence headlines get more clicks. So what impact do you make? What problem do you solve? What are your job titles? Make sure that you are able to convey that in a thought, so to say, and take the time to write a sentence headline, because those profiles, LinkedIn's metrics also show get more contact. After that, so for example, attorney. There's a bazillion types of attorney out there. What kind of attorney are you? Do you do contract law? Do you work in the court system? What are you doing? So I help, for example, you might say, I help you to navigate wrongful unemployment with confidence. And so that's somebody who works in employment law. They need to list your state of practice and the other keywords. So really think about how you can tell your story with the headline. In a Blink, you also want to have a background picture, because that background image makes your profile either be confusing if it's odd and out of place, or your profile look inactive. So for example, if you have no background image, you could just upload a clean, simple color, black, white, gray, whatever you want. If you've tried to put up an image that is giving people an idea of who you are, don't do that, because people won't understand what you're trying to say with a random image. But if you do, you can put up a small quote, just something clean, clear, and crisp. If you want to look at, this is from Zoom. If you want to look at some Zoom employees, their background images tend to be all wonderful. I don't know if they do them in-house or what their guidelines are, but they do great ones. So in a Blink, you need your headline, profile picture, and background image all working together so that audience clicks to read more. And to really highlight the power of this is back in about 2010, the very first time I saw somebody get a job just from updating their profile. was when I had a friend who had been working as a DBA, and he wanted to be a database architect, or she wanted to be a database architect, excuse me. And so this was before people were writing sentence headlines. But what she did is she took her new title, she took the open source software she was working with and what she was doing, and she changed her headline. Then she wrote a new summary talking about some projects she's been working on in the work style. This was also focused on her current work, but written to really show the capacity and things that she was interested in. And within about a week of having her new profile up, she was getting contacted by recruiters and getting interviews, and within a couple of months had the choice of several job offers, was able to take the one that was the best fit with the most pay. And over the next couple of years, continued to use this process to leverage until she found this ideal job where she's been now for like 4 or 5 years. And so you can totally use LinkedIn if you really, really target your profile to get that sort of leveling up and to move forward, especially if you're in a technical field, because LinkedIn is really heavily used by recruiters for there. But recruiters are also in many, many other fields now actively searching on LinkedIn. So where people get stuck is trying to figure out simply what to write. They're not sure where to start. And so if you really get stuck, you can get a LinkedIn workbook, or you can hire a writer to help you out. Maybe you just don't want to put in the time. And so, I've got a set of questions. I have a process for working with people. But really, if you just take the time to buckle down, you can do it. So once you get your headline, your background, that first link image up and ready to go, you need to tell me more. Who are you as a professional? And so this is really creating that summary that is a powerful narrative. So in a blink, people click and read more. And the first thing they're going to see are those first 300 characters of your about section. Once people have gotten to this point and they've read that about section, LinkedIn shows they spend an average or a minimum of 4 minutes and an average of up to 7 minutes on LinkedIn profiles. So take the time to write a good profile. It is worth your effort to put in the time, because people, when they're curious about a profile, will read it. So I showed you a couple profile images before. So the woman with the glasses, Emily. So she has just been rocking LinkedIn, and she's used her personality to brand herself as an email marketing specialist. And so she wrote this about summary that matches what an email would look like the textbook, excellent email that you want to send out for marketing. And she talks about what she does, how she helps people, what their problems are, how she addresses those, and what she believes as a professional. She says, I'm here to tell you that you don't need to do it all. Grit has gotten you this far in your career. It's time to take a breather. And so she has addressed what she does, what her worldview is for impact, how she can help you, and then she tells you that she'd like to work with you. So these are the things that you want to have in your about summary. And your about summary doesn't need to look just like Emily's. It needs to be right for you and for your career and your audience. So if you think of LinkedIn as this future forward document or platform, you want to create excitement about who you are and where you are going. And it's your about summary that you can do that with. So questions to get you started are, where am I going? How will I get there? Why do I work? What can I do? What is my worldview? How is my work connected to my values? How do I leverage my strengths in my work? If you can get all of these things in your about summary, it's going to be way more interesting than your standard professional summary that shows up at the top of the resume that just sounds very robotic and like a regurgitated job description. You can start with that, but then use these questions to build out and have a little color. And you really want to be sure that you can articulate both your capacity to perform plus your worldview and that sort of vision for your future and how you're going to get there. You might call that hope. It's like your hope for your future. What is your hope for your future career? And turn that into a sentence or a paragraph and tell your story. So for example, another story is I was hired by a young woman who had been working as a nanny. She had a college degree. She was also a singer in a band, and she did a lot of work on the side for entertainment groups, helping set up concerts and things like that, mostly as a volunteer. And she had been working, though, ended up pretty much being a professional nanny for the same family for the last 8 years. And she was ready to do something else, but she wasn't really sure what she could do. But she also wanted to make sure that she could travel. And so she decided that she wanted to be a virtual assistant. And when she came to me, her LinkedIn profile was a little too modest. It didn't talk about her capacity to perform, didn't really point to where she was going. Her profile picture was taken in the front seat of a car, so she didn't come across as being somebody who was serious and professional. And so we really gave her LinkedIn profile a makeover. And we went and we wrote a new headline. We created this powerful summary that captured her skills. And you know, a nanny is a CEO of a house. She'd been making doctor's appointments. She's doing all of these things. So she had all of these capacities. So it was really just writing out, you know, the ability for her to manage a calendar, all these different things that she could do, and a new profile picture. And sure enough, she was able to pitch herself as a virtual assistant, and she's continuing to do it. And several years later, she is successful in this field and probably actually moving up now to a business manager, online business manager. So people get stuck figuring out what to include and holding themselves back with that idea of that they need to be humble. So you need to talk with confidence, but without bragging. And you need to be careful to not sound too impersonal. So, you know, the PR style language, third person, isn't great for LinkedIn. You want to be personal and you want to talk about what you do with confidence and joy. So after your about summary, you don't want to just leave it off there. You want to leverage your experience in your entire profile. So people will ask me, can I just copy and paste my resume to LinkedIn? Do I even need to include my work experience? And sure, you can copy and paste your resume to your LinkedIn profile, but I wouldn't. Unless you already have a very human voice resume that really speaks to your accomplishments and doesn't just talk about your work experience as job descriptions. So you want to be able to answer these when your work experience. You want to talk about what you've done or learned on the job that you didn't expect. What was the outcome? You want to talk about how certain events shaped your career trajectory. You want to talk about, you know, when I was at my best, what was I doing? What did I enjoy most about this work? And you could call these accomplishment stories. And these accomplishment stories really allow you to shine. They allow you to impactfully build out and personalize your work experience and show who you are in a sort of 360-degree profile. So if you want to think about how this can work, is I worked with a woman who had was launching a digital agency, building websites and doing some web design and some web marketing and things like that. And she'd been having trouble getting clients through LinkedIn. And of course, she had the profile picture that was hidden. Then her profile picture, when it was unhidden, was just outside in a park. It wasn't super clear. She had a random background image. And when I looked at her work experience, it said she was an environmental science teacher. And so I was very, very confused, even myself, how this woman was trying to create this digital agency building websites. And so when I started to talk to her, I found out that in 2010, she'd been asked to teach web design to a home economics class. And over the next 5 years, she'd continued to teach this class. She'd learned with her students, and she'd become an expert at building websites. And so then she started hobby building websites for her friends, building websites for people in her neighborhood. And over time, she decided that she loved building websites. She actually really liked the creativity of it. And she'd started to expand, and she'd gotten to a point that she could quit teaching and just be a web designer. And so this is where you need to build in this transition, this career narrative, and talk about these things. And so she needed to talk about, in her 2010 teaching experience, talk about the fact that she'd started teaching web design. And once that was in there, her profile became, and once, you know, her volunteer work, even in web design, and the little freelance projects she's done, we had to create a work experience for that. And once that was there, suddenly she has this powerful profile, and it shows that she's got a decade of experience. So you really, really need to be careful to formulate and balance your profile and to integrate your accomplishments in. And if you're not sure how to do this, I've got a workbook that walks you through each of these steps, or you can hire me to write your profile for you. So once you've got this content and this conceptual part of your LinkedIn profile down, you need to make sure that you're relevant and searchable. And so this is where keywords come into play. Your LinkedIn profile, the entire profile is searchable with Boolean searches and other kinds of searches for the keywords that are in it. And so this is one reason your skills and endorsement section is actually quite important. So I wouldn't worry as much about the number of endorsements that you have, but you need to make sure that the keywords that are in your profile are the ones that people are going to be searching for. And if you've got some keywords in there that are for things you do not want to be doing, that are not relevant, if you've totally changed careers, things like that, you know, if you've got 100 endorsements for event planning and the last thing you ever want to do again is plan an event, then delete that from your profile. Unless it is still an important aspect of your job, and maybe it's just going to be 5% of what you do. So pay attention to what the keywords are in your profile. And one way you can do this is to use this cool little website called cvscan.uk. And so you can take and save your LinkedIn profile as a PDF, copy the text, drop it into cvscan.uk, and then take a couple of your ideal job descriptions and drop those into cvscan.uk and scan it and find out which keywords are you missing. Because if you're missing a bunch of really important keywords, then the other thing that's going to happen is the people that are looking for someone like you aren't going to find you. So you need to make sure you have the right keywords, all the keywords, and the best keywords, you would say. And also you want to avoid other keywords that are maybe the things that you don't want to get targeted for. And a lot of times when I hear people say, oh, I get recruiters contacting me all the time for the wrong jobs, and I go and look at their profile, it's because they have not optimized their profile. Their profile is full of the wrong keywords and does not have the right keywords. And so this is where people get stuck a lot. And so if you are having trouble with this, if you've rewritten your profile and you're still not getting targeted for the right things, if the right people aren't paying attention to you, then maybe you're looking for the wrong jobs. There's some other things we can look at, but you may be in need of a career coaching session. I do a lot of role exploration with people, helping them figure out if a job is in fact an ideal job. So if you're stuck or you're getting contacted by the wrong people, there may be something else going on, but usually it's just a keyword issue. So once you've got your keywords and your whole profile written, now you are ready to leverage your network. And so this comes into play in the connections you have, your ability to use emails, and how you write or publish content on LinkedIn if you choose to go that route. So first off, a relevant network is better than a huge network. So Emily that I showed you before, she doesn't even have a ton of contacts yet. When she publishes on LinkedIn, she gets a ton of engagement. And I bring this up just to highlight that you don't have to be an influencer. If you're going to publish short posts on LinkedIn, if you're going to publish videos to get seen by the right people and even get seen by quite a few people, you don't have to have 10,000 or 20,000 or 30,000 followers. If you have that many followers, you're actually probably going to have to hire an assistant to help you use LinkedIn. So if you're just one person, you're looking for a job, or you've got your consultancy, you're a coach, or you're a writer, whatever you're doing, you don't need a huge following to get your content seen on LinkedIn. What you need is content that is accurately targeted and that provides value. So when you are growing your network, you want to think about who your ideal clients are and who they know. So you want to connect with your ideal clients. You don't want to necessarily connect with everybody. I have had somebody go from having 8 contacts on LinkedIn, like a brand new LinkedIn profile, to 85 contacts and still getting hired in his ideal job. So you do not need to, especially if you are just looking for a job, you don't need to go out there and expand your network up, down, left, and right. Recruiters can still search profiles for people they're not connected to. So you don't even have to be connected to every recruiter under the sun and moon. You just need to have an accurately written profile. So if you do want to grow your network, start with your ideal clients, then go to your peers and your competition. When you find somebody that is important to your network, send a connection message. It can be pre-written, so you don't have, maybe you just customize it a little bit each time. And when those people request to connect with you, or when they accept your connection request, also have something ready to thank them that just sort of emphasizes what you do, so that you just get one more touch point talking about what you do. And I want to make a distinction here that these kinds of connection requests, and when you're growing your network, just sort of re-emphasizing what you do is not the same thing as a networking message or an in-mail. So when you get that sense that somebody, you just met somebody on LinkedIn and they're asking you on a date or to get married or get engaged or buy a new house straight off the bat, you feel uncomfortable because people have used their connection request not to connect with you and learn something about you or to teach you something about themselves, but to try to sell you something already. And that's too fast and it's the wrong place. So a networking message might come after the connection request has already been made, or that is what in-mails were created for. So in-mails are not connection requests. So don't waste your in-mail on asking somebody if they want to connect with you. Your in-mail, you actually have the space to write a headline, it's like an email, and then have a very clear goal. Personalize your message, have a call to action in it, and make sure that you've read over the person's profile and that they know exactly why you're reaching out to them. And if you do that, you actually will probably get a pretty good response rate to your in-mails. So, I just yesterday, I got an email, hey, I'd love to be your business partner. We can go 50-50. I'm like, what? Why? How can I be your business partner? I'm a career coach. It doesn't even make any sense. And I click through and I look at the person's profile and it's in some kind of sales. So things like that are not an effective use of in-mails. The person clearly doesn't know who I am. They don't know, they didn't tell me what kind of business partnership, anything about them. So use your in-mails thoughtfully and they can be effective. Use your networking message thoughtfully. Thank people, respond, follow up. On the other hand, if you don't get a response, don't take it personally, just move on. So where people get stuck is figuring out really who they want to connect with and what that message should be. And what I tell you is that the people on the other side of the LinkedIn profile are real people. So just consider, think about what you would say if you're meeting somebody at a cocktail party or in line at Starbucks, you're sitting next to them on the airplane. Anytime you find out a little bit about somebody, how do you introduce yourself? What kind of nice things do you say? Kind of like Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Say something nice about the other person. You don't have to put too much thought into it. Just be real, be genuine. LinkedIn is real people. Treat them like real people, be respectful, and you'll do fine. So when you go into what to do next or how to up-level that, if you want to publish content, if you want to interact on LinkedIn, you really want to ground that in providing value to your network. So follow, like, comment on the post of your peers in your competition, and you'll get seen. Be sure that your goal is always to provide value, to be positive, to share some knowledge so that you get seen. Frequency, you only need to do this a few times a week and people will notice you. You don't need to do it every day. And if you're going to publish on LinkedIn, what you should really be doing is the short posts that are 1,300 characters. Don't focus on articles. Articles are going out. So your goal really with these short posts is to educate people, connect with people, grow your authority, grow your audience. Again, LinkedIn says you don't need to do this every day. If you publish a couple times a week, that's good. But you do want to pay attention to when you publish, because if you don't get a reaction in the first hour or so, that LinkedIn algorithm is going to sink you. So you want to make sure you're publishing at an appropriate time to your ideal audience. If you want to add an image, that's great. Post with the image in a short post, get the best viewership. Same with the video. If you post a video, still include some content with it. The magic recipe for an engaging post is sort of that transformational story, somebody's initial struggle, deciding to do something about it, difficulties along the way, how those difficulties were overcome, the goal that was achieved, and the transformation undergone. If you don't know what to write, if you're not somebody that's comfortable getting out there in front of people, think about how, for your experience, your business, your work, whatever, you can tell one of these little transformational stories. Get that down to 1,300 characters and try it out on LinkedIn. There's a good chance it'll work. So articles, I said, used to be considered evergreen, searchable, sort of like blog posts in LinkedIn. They are phasing them out right now and replacing them with newsletters. So don't even worry about articles. If you do get the option, if you get invited by LinkedIn or you request to use a newsletter, then you can use that, but that's something for a different day. So where people get stuck is the actual writing. And so if you can repurpose content, do it. Just try it out. Just play with writing on LinkedIn and see what happens. Nothing like terrible is going to happen if you publish on LinkedIn. Nobody's going to bite you. So just do it, play with it, and see what works for your audience. I do recommend that if you're looking for a job or actively trying to work on LinkedIn, that you pay up for premium because you will get more emails and unlimited searching. Also, LinkedIn will promote your profile. If you have a free profile, you don't get the full benefit of LinkedIn. It is a pay-to-play platform, you could say. So if you've got questions now, drop your profile URL and your questions in the comments, raise your hand, and I will go through and address those. This is the end of the recorded section of this LinkedIn webinar. Thank you, everybody. Actually, okay, so now that we have covered the Q&A section, let's go into what we learned, just in a quick summary. You learned that you need to clarify your audience, that you need to assess your linked image, that you need to have an engaging headline. You need to connect your summary to your headline, have a call to action. You want to make sure that your narrative is consistent and powerful. You want to remember that you are interacting with real people just like you to be respectful and provide value. So, for those of you that have watched this webinar, I want to make sure that you know of a couple of things I've had. I mentioned my LinkedIn workbook. I have a LinkedIn workbook that's $15. You can go to my website and download it right now. I am currently updating my LinkedIn profile workbook to address a few, and it's about a year old right now, to address some changes. Anybody that has bought my LinkedIn workbook in the last couple of months, I will update you, send you the updated version. But the main content, that process of how to write your profile won't change. So if you need to update your LinkedIn profile yesterday, then download the workbook and use that now. I'm also going to be creating a write your own profile course. So in the future, if you come across somebody who needs help with their profile, you can still send them to me and they can take the course. It'll be basically my workbook plus short little lessons. So sort of like this webinar, but in more depth. And then I also do LinkedIn profile audits. So if you've updated your profile, but you're still not sure whether it's on target, if you'd like some help with your headline, you want me to read your summary, you can hire me to do that. And for those of you that have taken this webinar, if you book a audit in the next 2 weeks, you will get $50 off. You can just use that code webinar and it'll give you $50 off that profile audit. I also do career coaching and long-term career coaching. I do life coaching. I do goal setting sessions. So be sure to check out my website, lifeworkpurpose.com. And I'd love to help you tell your career narrative and be successful in what you do. Thank you, everybody. Bye.